Spooky, scary sandcastles send shivers down your spine. Shrieking sands will shock your soul, seal your doom tonight. As much as I wanted to put the instrumental of spooky, scary skeletons here to make this intro a bit better, it's copyrighted, but I felt like it was still fitting to change the lyrics up some. Palossand is actually one of my favorite Pokemon from Alola, despite the pretty basic design. I mean, it is just a sandcastle after all. Its typing to me is very interesting. Ghost and Ground, and I'm going to put a freeze frame on the sprite here. I did not make this front sprite. This came from SharkGuy01, which I found on Reddit. I, however, made the back sprite for this Pokemon. I know it's not the best, but I feel like it's very Generation 1-like. But back to what I was saying before about Palossand. Ghost and Ground is an interesting typing. It gives us immunity against almost everything up until Misty's gym, and then I took a look at its stats. Like most ground types in Generation 1, it's slow, with 35 base speed. However, all of its other stats are either 75 or higher. For this run, I did choose to backport its higher special attack stat of 100. So after seeing all of this, you might be thinking Palossand is going to wreck the game, and that's not the case at all, because this thing really suffers in the early game, thanks to its move pool. Whenever I backport these mons from later generations, I like to use the moveset from the generation it came from, so in this case, Generation 7. And while we have the tools to get by Brock, when you take into consideration the many bug, flying, and poison types you encounter in the early game, it's going to be rather slow and require a lot of PP management. This thing normally starts with Harden, Absorb, Astonish, and Sand Attack. 3 of 4 are already in Generation 1, and instead of backporting the 30 base power Ghost move that has a chance to flinch, I gave it Lick. From here, we get Sand Attack again at level 9, Sand Tomb at level 14, one of 5 new moves I backported, and I'll touch on this one in particular a bit later. Mega Drain at 18, Bulldoze at 23, which is just a ground type move with a chance to lower speed, Hypnosis at 27, Iron Defense at 32, which I've subbed for Acid Armor since they do the same thing, Giga Drain at 36, which is just a better Mega Drain, and the final 2 new moves in Shadow Ball and Earth Power at 41 and 47. These are just Ghost and Ground type Psychic. At level 54, normally it learns its signature move Shore Up, which is just a recovery move based on weather. I just subbed this for Recover, and instead of Sandstorm at 60, I went with Earthquake, because I felt like it was fitting for this to learn this move via level up, and why not give it at the last level it learns a move at? Through TM, things are a bit limited. We do get access to Body Slam, Earthquake, and Fissure, but 2 that stand out are Psychic and Rock Slide. Psychic because it will take advantage of our 100 base special, but it will also be able to hit targets that Shadow Ball and Earth Power can't, like flying and normal types. Rock Slide I'll touch on a bit later in the playthrough, but I'm sure you can guess the one Pokemon it's going to come in handy against. Alright, that intro was longer than anticipated and to my liking. If you're still here, you're awesome. In this first playthrough, Palossand is going to be doing the bare minimum to Brock, only fighting the rival in the lab and this mandatory bug catcher, who I have to 6-shot the Weedle with Lick. After the battle, we reach level 6 thanks to being in the medium fast level up group, and with having a grass move and Absorb on our learn set, even though it's pretty weak, I don't see Brock being difficult. Geodude is first. It has nothing that can hit me, and 3 absorbs knock it out. Onix is next, and I need to be careful against it. Because it outspeeds, I don't want to be attacking into Bide, have it get a 2-turn Bide, and then one-shot me. That doesn't happen today, and Palossand earns the first badge. I'm going to bring up 3 things. The first, I mention this in every video, but there are times I forget to toggle on a badge when I earn them down here. And I played this playthrough late at night after work and working out, so I definitely kept forgetting forgetting this. I'll do better. The second, I mentioned this in my Hydreigon video, but I forgot to reconfigure my OBS settings after my PC upgrades. This is one of the runs I recorded where I didn't reconfigure them, but this has since been fixed. Now to the last and most important. I'm healing at the Pokemon Center because, as I said before, PP management is going to be a big thing with this thing, and Route 3 is the first test of if your PP can go the distance. Against this first bug catcher, I used 13 uses of Lick out of my 30 PP. You heard me right. 13. The first Caterpie is a 6-shot, but after about 5 licks, I go for Harden just to badge boost my attack some. This makes the following Weedle a 3-hit, but then I level up and it's back to slowly knocking out the final Caterpie. The next youngster has a Rattata that is immune to Lick, but at least I can use Absorb on it, and I use a quarter of my PP just to take this thing out. Against Ekans, it's 4 uses of Lick to take it out, although I should have used Harden to badge boost some to try and save PP, because I now have 13 uses of the move. There are 2 trainers left. This lasts with a Rattata and Nidoran male. I can use Absorb on her first Pokemon and Lick on the second to knock them out, and then one final bug catcher with a Caterpie and a Metapod. I should have used Harden against this first Caterpie just to increase my damage some, but I just go straight Lick, and I use 5 of my final 8 uses. The remaining 3 bring the following Metapod to under half HP before I have to use Absorb to finish it off, which I do after 5 uses, leaving me with 6 PP left of Absorb and 0 for Lick after I get through what feels like an early gauntlet. In Mount Moon, there are going to be 3 optional trainers I take on. The first is this Super Nerd, the second is this Hiker, and I want to point something out about this battle. After I knock out his second Geodude, Palossand levels up and can learn Sand Tomb, which I teach in the place of Sand Attack. I said I would touch on this move earlier in the video, and I made Sand Tomb a ground-type clone of Clamp. This move is going to be a staple for the rest of the run, because trapping moves are OP. The final trainer I face is the Rocket Raticate Grunt. After I knock out the Fossil Nerd's Voltorb, Palossand reaches level 16. I take the Dome Fossil, and as I head into Cerulean, I thought of something. Misty is going to be terrible to face now due to her type advantage, and the only move I have to hit the rival's Pidgeotto at the moment is Absorb, and I can't teach something like Bide for it, because it has no moves that will deal damage to me. So what do I do from here? Well, what I ended up doing is going to Cerulean Gym. I take on the 2 trainers in the gym, which gets Palossand to level 17 before facing Misty, and I know that I have no chance of winning this battle. I had something else in mind. I want to at least knock out the Staryu, which I do accomplish barely thanks to it critting Water Gun twice, but Sand Tomb was clutch, and I hit level 18 and can learn Mega Drain. Afterwards, I let Starmie take me out so that I can black out. Then, I use the 2 rare candies I've picked up to bring myself to level 20 to the next damage rounding threshold, and try my luck with the rival, and let me tell you, this fight sucks. Mega Drain is a 7-hit KO on Pidgeotto, which gives it plenty of time to hit you with something like Sand Attack, and unless you crit, you can't afford to miss. 3 or more and it's an automatic reset in my eyes. While I do burn through all 10 uses of Mega Drain on Pidgeotto, I do take it out in this attempt. The following 2 Pokemon aren't a problem, and I don't have anything to worry about until Squirtle. While I do get some early misses with Sand Tomb, my third connects and hits enough times to knock out his ace. So, Route 3 was quite the gauntlet due to PP management. Well, Nugget Bridge is going to require even more. The one saving grace is that there's a hidden elixir after I make it past the 5 mandatory trainers and the Rocket Grunt at the end, but I need to defeat a Hiker in order to access it. I do end up backtracking to the Pokemon Center after only the second trainer, as you see on screen. I got Sand Attacked to all hell, and I need more Mega Drain PP in order to get through the rest of the trainers. And speaking of Mega Drain, I'm going to need enough PP of it to take care of the last before Bills, who has a Pidgey on her team with Sand Attack, but she also guards a hidden Ether, which will be clutch for the following route. Speaking of the last, she ends up not being a problem. Thanks to the hidden elixir, elixir, I have all of my PP for Mega Drain and I can 3-shot the Pidgey, and thankfully it doesn't sand attack me either. Now that I'm level 23, I decided to try my luck with Misty again, while Staryu does outspeed me still. Sand Tomb hits twice, which is enough to knock it out. I level up to 24 as her ace comes out. Water Gun doesn't hurt too bad, as Sand Tomb hits 3 times, bringing it under half health. Starmie then crits a Water Gun, bringing me to 16 HP as Sand Tomb misses, and this looked like a loss, but Misty just uses an X defend. Sand Tomb hits, trapping her ace and earning me the second badge. So, remember the hidden ether I mentioned before? Well, it's going to come in handy against the 2 trainers I have to face that guard Vermilion. This first trainer has 3 Pidgeys, all with sand attack, and I only have 8 PP of Mega Drain, but I luckily get a critical hit against the first Pidgey, and the only time one of them uses sand attack, it misses. I didn't save before this battle either, so thank God for the first try victory. I use said ether before the next trainer to restore my PP, and thankfully Spearow doesn't have sand attack, and it goes down after 3 Mega Drains, while the following Raticate has nothing that can hit me. As we enter Vermilion and head to the SSN, in this first playthrough, I opted to skip Body Slam, and I feel like this was a mistake which I'll touch on in a little bit. My thought process at the time was Palossand wouldn't need it, and if it did, it wouldn't be for very long, and I was just trying to save some time because the early game was a bit of a slog. I'm also going to be skipping Rest, but I will pick up the Gentleman Candy before taking on the rival. Body Slam would have made this battle so much faster. Instead of 5-shotting the Pidgeotto with Mega Drain, I could have 2 or 3-shot it at worst with Body Slam. The rest of his team isn't a problem though, but Body Slam will definitely speed this battle up in the following attempt. Surge, you didn't think he'd be a problem, did you? Alright, I've got to talk about Rock Tunnel some, not because the Pokemon here are going to be a problem, but because once again, PP management comes into play. This wouldn't be a problem if you healed at the Pokemon Center outside of Rock Tunnel, but I didn't do that, because why would I do anything in this first attempt to make things easier on myself? Anyway, for a quick PP rundown, we have 8 Sand Tombs, 27 Licks, 10 Mega Drains, and 30 Hardens at the time of this first battle. This first Pokemaniac isn't a problem, along with the second, but now we have to deal with this last with the Oddish and Bulbasaur. I end up using Sand Tomb against the first Oddish and miss one of them, so I have to finish it with Lick, which isn't a problem, and I opt to stick with the Ghost move against Bulbasaur, which does end up poisoning me, but I've got a full restore in my bag to take care of that. Now, to make these PP matters worse, I accidentally run into this hiker that I never battle. He's located right here. Credit to Zero Kid from GameFAQs. This is the first image that popped up when I searched for a rock tunnel map in Google Images. Anyway, he has 4 Pokemon, 3 Geodudes and a Machop. I just use Lick for this entire battle because I want to save my Sand Tomb and Mega Drain PP for the final 2 mandatory trainers in here. One of those being the self-destructing hiker, but to save some PP, I can just spam Harden until all of his Pokemon explode. The only move they have that can hit me is Rock Throw, and we all know how terrible Rock Throw's accuracy is in Gen 1, but even at 4 times speed, this battle takes forever because his Pokemon just refuse to blow up, and by the time it's all said and done, I have 6 PP left of Harden. And finally, we have the last at the end with the Meowth, Oddish, and Pidgey. I had to save my Mega Drain PP so that I could hit Pidgey, and this is another trainer who Body Slam would have been useful against, but now we can pick things up in Celadon City, and things are going to start getting better for our spooky, scary sandcastle. I'm going to head to the Rocket Hideout first to grab items to sell at the market, along with the hidden PP up. Giovanni isn't a challenge since I have grass moves for the 2 rock types and Kangaskhan has nothing that can hit me. I need to do a run with this thing one of these days. After clearing out the hideout, I head to the department store while I get all 3 TMs from the girl on the roof. The notable one is Rock Slide. I sell off everything I've picked up, I've bought my Super Repels, and in this first playthrough, I decided to buy 3 Calciums and 2 Carbos. Carbos for obvious reasons, but Calciums will boost my best stat, my Special. And speaking of my Special, we're going to get a big upgrade in that department. After getting Fly, I unlock the way to Saffron and head to Mr. Psychic's house to grab the TM for Psychic, and from here, it's off to Pokemon Tower to battle the rival. Having Psychic as an option to use against Pidgeotto over Mega Drain is great, but there's a new problem on his team that we have to deal with in the future, that is Execute. None of my moves on my current set deal neutral damage to it, and even if I had Body Slam, its base 80 defense would probably make it like a 3 to 4 hit KO. And while this thing will be even tankier when it's an Exeggutor, at least then the only move it will have that can hit me is Hypnosis. Aside from the eggs, his team doesn't provide a challenge, but that's set to change in the next rival battle. The channelers here don't provide any problems, although all the Ghastlies outspeed me, which is a bit annoying. After completing Pokemon Tower, I head to Cycling Road. I'm going to take this time to do some extra training. I'm also going to pick up the Hidden Rare Candy and PP up while here. But back to training. While Koga and Blaine won't be a problem, I still have to take on Erica, whom I probably outspeed all of her Pokemon at this point. Rival 5, and Sabrina, but there's also trainers further down the line like Rival 6 and the Champion and Lorelei, and of course, Lance. I battle a select few trainers that I've pointed out in prior runs, which if you aren't sure who they are, this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. That little bit of training got Palossand to level 38, and I reached level 39 battling past the trainers in Koga's gym, and now I can take on the Ninja Master himself. No intro for him this week. You can go Sand Tomb or Psychic in this battle, whichever you prefer. I just leave my cursor on Psychic until the battle is over. As I head through the Safari Zone, I'm going to be picking up vitamins and other items along the way to sell. I got the urge to do a second Mart buy in this run, because Palossand just feels like it's going to struggle coming up, and I end up purchasing 3 additional Carbos from the Mart before I head to Silphco. The first thing I do here is head to the 10th floor for the extra Carbos and rare candy. I grab the card key, and then I'm actually going to battle this scientist. That's because after knocking out his Electrode, I level up and have the opportunity to learn Shadow Ball. While it technically would be stronger than Psychic thanks to Stab, has more PP and the same effect as Psychic, it won't be able to hit Pokemon like the Champion's Pidgeot, Alakazam, and Exeggutor, just to name a few, so I forego learning this move, and I'm about to be facing one of the Pokemon it would have no effect against, the rival's Pidgeot. Psychic is unfortunately a 3-shot on it. It doesn't hit me with Sand Attack, but it does crit one of its 3 wing attacks. Against Growlithe, I'm going to set up Hardens to boost my attack and speed, because Sand Tomb is going to be my move of choice going forward until Blastoise. It thankfully doesn't burn me with Ember, and Sand Tomb traps and knocks out Growlithe, Execute, and Alakazam, but I level up going into Blastoise. I learned Giga Drain while training on Cycling Road, and it's going to be my move of choice against the tanky turtle, which takes it out in 2 turns. Giovanni, I don't really need to say much about this battle, so why don't we go ahead and face a stronger trainer. The battle against Sabrina opens up in the worst possible way, with Sabrina getting back-to-back critical hits with Psychic and Psybeam, and I miss a Sand Tomb in the process. While I am able to knock out her lead, I don't think I'm going to have enough HP for the final 3 Pokemon. I go for Giga Drain on Mr. Mime for some recovery, along with Harden for some badge boosts, but once I knock it out, I level up. And while I'm barely able to make it by Venomoth, who paralyzes me with Stun Spore, I stand no chance against Alakazam. I've got more HP for Venomoth in the next battle, and once again, it just goes for Stun Spore right away, and thanks to Parahacks and it chipping me down with Psybeam, this looks like another loss. However, Alakazam just goes for Psywave and misses. Sand Tomb does its job, trapping her ace and gets enough hits to take it out. We're going to do a bit of a gym leader blitz now, hopping into Erica. We're over-leveled to this point, and Psychic is more than enough for her to handle. On to Blaine. He actually gives our sandcastle a hard time, believe it or not. I actually lose this first attempt at the hands of Ponyta because it just hits Fire Spin over and over and over and over and over again, bringing me from 131 HP to 0. I couldn't believe it. In the next battle, as I'm trying to set up on Growlithe, it burns me with Ember, and while I'm able to make it to Arcanine, I barely have any HP left, and it takes me me out with Ember. In this third attempt, I'm able to fully set up without getting burned, and Sand Tomb does its job, trapping and taking out his entire team. Time for the last gym leader, Giovanni. Giga Drain for the rock and ground types, Psychic for the Nidos. This one is pretty straightforward. And with that, Palossand has acquired all 8 gym badges. I have 8 rare candies in my bag, and I'm going to use 5 before the battle against Rival 6 to go from level 48 to 53 above 2 damage rounding thresholds. His Blastoise now has Hydro Pump, which would do devastating damage if it were to hit, and Execute has Solar Beam, although I don't worry about that too much as long as Sand Tomb hits. I take out his lead Pidgeot immediately with Psychic thanks to a crit. Rhyhorn is going to be the Pokemon I set up against, setting up all 6 Hardens as it wonders why its horn keeps missing a pile of sand. And once I'm fully set up, I easily outspeed all of his Pokemon. I don't level up until the end of the battle, and Sand Tomb does its job as Palossand makes it through this one damageless. In Victory Road, I did pick up the additional rare candy, but there are also 2 optional trainers I'm going to face before entering the league. The first is this cool trainer with Chansey, Dugong, and Parasect, and the second is this cool trainer with a Kingler, Tentacruel, and Blastoise. Palossand has 4 candies in the bag and begins the league at level 55. Will it be enough, or will we find ourselves washed ashore? Lorelei is first, and I'm going to take my time setting up 3 Hardens on Dugong, thanks to getting a rest between its Aurora Beams. I nearly heal back and knock it out with Giga Drain, but it just hangs on with a Sliver to get that extra attack in. I can heal up fully on Cloyster though, thanks to its special not being the best. Against Slowbro, because I don't want this thing setting up Amnesia or Withdraw, I go for Sand Tomb to trap it and finish it with a Giga Drain once it's under half health. Sand Tomb is going to continue to be my move of choice against both Jinx and Lapras. Thanks to the badge boost, I outspeed Jinx, and even though I level up going up into Lapras, I naturally outspeed it and can finish it with a Giga Drain once its health is low enough. Bruno's next. I have Giga Drain and Psychic, and that's all you need. I do set up Hardens just to try and guarantee one-shots, namely against Machamp, who I end up leveling up going into, but it's still a 2-shot and it's not a threat and we can just move on. Agatha is next, and while this battle isn't difficult, it's very annoying. My goal was to get through this fight without having to use candies, which I do accomplish, but you can see against the first Gengar, I get put to sleep and hit with a Nightshade and Dream Eater, and even after 1 turn of setup, I can't outspeed her Ghost or Golbat. I thankfully don't hit myself against the first Gengar and take it out with 2 Psychic. And while I do hit myself once against Golbat, I thankfully snap out of it and one-shot it with Psychic. Haunter follows, and it misses the annoying sleep move Hypnosis. Psychic is going to be a 2-shot, and I get the retroactive Super Potion turn 2. Arbok is the only Pokemon of hers I can outspeed, probably thanks to the 1 Harden, but then we level up going into the final Gengar. It immediately confuses me, but Palossand shakes it off quickly, and 2 Psychics take it out. But now we have the true test of the Elite Four, Lance, who leads with a Gyarados. It outspeeds, and Hydro Pump does well over half, as Psychic does about a quarter, and yeah, this is a quick loss. I get pretty lucky in the next battle thanks to 2 Hydro Pump misses and a special drop from Psychic. However, the Dragonairs can be a problem, because I'm already at nearly half health, and I decide to set up a Harden, and I get hit with Dragon Rage. While I can take out the first Dragonair no problems, I miss some Sand Tombs against the second, while it sets up an Agility and now moves first and tags me with another Dragon Rage before going down. Theoretically, I should have 0 problems against Aerodactyl and Dragonite, but Aerodactyl does have Supersonic, which it goes for, and right on cue, Palossand hits itself 3 times in a row to knock itself out. After one more quick loss at the hands of Gyarados, I use 2 rare candies to bring myself to level 60, but I'm also going to teach Rock Slide in the place of Psychic, so I can have super effective damage against his lead, and Rock Slide, when it hits, is doing over half, and now we just need some luck with a Hydro Pump miss, which I get in the very next battle, letting me proceed to the dragons with just under half HP. And while I do get a miss with Sand Tomb, I don't get punished with getting hit with Dragon Rage, and I'm able to take out the 2 Dragonairs and move on to Aerodactyl. Instead of going for something like Rock Slide or Giga Drain right away, I set up 2 Hardens before it hits me with a Supersonic. But Palossand doesn't hit itself this time, and Giga Drain does well over half, giving me some much needed recovery in case my Confusion luck were to go south, which it starts to do against Dragonite, but Palossand quickly shakes it off, and due to all of the barriers and Dragonite resisting Giga Drain, this battle is slow, and I got worried I was gonna run out of PP, so I go for some additional Hardens for badge boost and finish off his ace with 3 Giga Drains to spare. Palossand is moving on to the champion. I just want to freeze frame it here and point out that I finally remembered to toggle on all my badges. That was annoying to see throughout the run, sorry for that. Now on to the battle. I've used my final 2 rare candies to bring Palossand to level 63. Pidgeot opens with a mirror move that fails as Rock Slide does over half. I miss my next as it chips me down with some wing attacks before going down. Alakazam follows and hits me with a Psychic that thankfully doesn't crit or lower my special, while Sand Tomb only hits twice. Alakazam just goes for Reflect, allowing me to take it out, bringing us to Rhydon, the Pokemon I'm going to set up against and also heal to full thanks to Giga Drain. Rhydon even helps me out some with a few Tail Whips in between all the Hardens. I've got full HP for Arcanine, and Sand Tomb traps the legendary Doggo and 2-shots it. Exeggutor follows, and this thing is annoying. I open with a Sand Tomb because I don't want this thing wasting my time with Hypnosis, which it ends up doing. I eventually make the switch to Rock Slide, but I'm asleep for a total of 8 turns I believe in this battle. Once I knock it out though, I level up going into the final Pokemon, Blastoise. It outspeeds our Sandcastle, but misses a Hydro Pump. Sand Tomb connects, and I get a 5-hit combo with the trapping move, bringing Blastoise to under a quarter HP. I leave my cursor on the ground move as it goes for withdraw, and I miss. And I thought this was going to be my death sentence, but then Blastoise misses a Blizzard. Unfortunately, Sand Tomb only hits twice, leaving it on a sliver, and this is the part where you expect something like a critical hit Hydro Pump to just 100 to 0 you. But it chooses Blizzard, which could still freeze me, but it doesn't in this case, and one final Sand Tomb connects, winning us the run. Overall, I would say Palossand's results are a bit disappointing. It finishes the game at level 64 with an in-game time of 3 hours and 11 minutes, and for all you folks wondering about real time, it was a 51-minute and 18-second run, and I won't lie, trying to improve this thing was quite the task. I took a different approach in playthrough number 2. I decided to fight the optional bug catchers along with the Junior Light Years trainer in Brock's gym, hoping that a short-term time loss would result in a long-term gain, but that just wasn't the case. The extra levels going into Route 3 do help for better ranges against all of the bugs and normal types that I have to face, and once I knock out the final Metapod on this route, I hit level 14 and get Sand Tomb earlier than I did in my first run. I battled the same trainers in Mount Moon, but added this extra Rocket Grunt, because past him is a hidden ether that I thought would come in handy for Nugget Bridge or on the way to Vermilion, which it does. One of the most frustrating battles in this early game, and in this second playthrough overall, was the Rival 2 battle, only because of having to use Mega Drain against Pidgeotto. And while I fully believe this battle is possible at level 18, I was just not getting the luck needed, getting pelted with Sand Attack after Sand Attack and running out of PP against it multiple times. I ended up caving here and using my 2 candies to get to level 20 and barely get a first try victory, knocking out the bird with my last use of Mega Drain. We're going to jump ahead to the SSN now. I did have 2 resets against Misty thanks to Bubble Beam crits, but we're going to be picking up Body Slam in this run, and it is so nice to use something other than Mega Drain against Pidgeotto, as Body Slam 2-shots it. God, I shouldn't have skipped this in my first run. Jumping ahead to Rock Tunnel, I accidentally run into a different trainer this time. After defeating the self-destructing hiker and making my way into the next room, my repel runs out. I thought I was low enough to avoid the trainer to the far right, but no, I walk right into her path. And we're going to do another jump cut, this time to the Rival 6 battle. One thing to note is that I forego picking up Psychic in this run and replace Body Slam with Rock Slide before this battle. I also invested in Proteins and Carbos earlier in the run instead of Carbos and Calciums. Since Rock Slide and Sand Tomb are going to be doing most of the heavy lifting in the league, I thought boosting my attack would be the right call. But let's just go ahead and jump to the league and see how it did in its follow-up. Lorelei is a second try victory due to some unlucky crits I took. Bruno, easy. Agatha, second try victory thanks to some bad sleep and confusion luck. And against Lance, I take a different approach. I use candies to go from 55 to 63 above 3 damage rounding thresholds. While this doesn't make Lance or Gyarados any easier since he's still a 2-shot and still outspeeds me, I do get a first try victory. But where it really comes together is against the champion. After I knock out Pidgeot, I level up to 64, and I have all of my badge boosts for Blastoise, giving me another first try champion battle. In its follow-up, Palossand finishes the game at level 65, one level higher than the first run, and matches its in-game time with a 3 hour and 11 minute run, while posting a higher real time of 53 minutes and 52 seconds. The early game moveset really holds this Pokemon back. Even if it had a weak move like Tackle, that would probably benefit it more, especially against those early flying types. But perhaps one of you can post a better time with this thing, because I'm going to be making this patch file available for all of you, and if you happen to get a better time with this spooky scary sandcastle, let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the second installment of our October runs. Tune in next week when we take a trip to the casinos in Detroit. Before I go though, since it's football season, you know I have to talk about my Detroit Lions. I'm finishing this voiceover on Friday, September 26th. My wife and I are about to go out and grab some dinner, but on Monday this week, we played on Monday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens in Baltimore. Now, I'll admit, I'm like anybody else when it comes to rooting for your home team. I'll talk my shit and think that we can beat anybody, go undefeated, go all the way, yada yada yada. But there are also times where I'm real with it too. Every year, I join an elimination pool hosted by my good buddy, and for week 3, I took the Ravens to win. Now, I did use some logic in my decision making. Jared Goff, 0-3 all-time against Baltimore and doesn't play the best. The last time the Lions played in Baltimore, it was to the tune of a 38-6 thrashing where the team just looked downright pathetic and uncompetitive. And since becoming the Baltimore Ravens, we won't explore when they were the Baltimore Colts. The Lions have never won in Baltimore, and were 1-6 all-time against them, with Detroit's last victory coming back on October 9th, 2005 when I was a junior in high school, to the tune of a 35-17 thrashing of the Ratbirds. But you know what my boys in Honolulu Blue did on Monday night? They went into Baltimore and they said, "Oh hey Lamar Jackson, you're 24-2 against the NFC? Well, we're here for payback from that Justin Tucker field goal from 4 years ago. That 66-yarder that's the NFL record? Yeah, hold this L, big dog," to the tune of a 38-30 win. And even though I got eliminated for betting against my team, I don't give a shit, because that is a huge W, and there's plenty of season ahead. I just hope we finally make it to our first Super Bowl this year. Lions-Bills Super Bowl, or how about Lions-Chargers? Who likes that? I'll catch you in the next one. Take care, everybody.